And we are live. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our 29th episode called Gaining Insight, the Art of Listening, Learning, and Being Helpful. So today we have Rick Dumont. I'm really excited to have him on today. So welcome, Rick. And as you know, and as we've talked about, we like to kick it off. Tell us about yourself. And then also, could you tell us about an event that you went to recently that you really enjoyed?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's great to meet Taylor and Stephen. And of course, Amelia, you and I know each other, but yeah, it's great. I'm honored to be here. I am how to describe myself? I guess first and foremost, I'm an actor, a filmmaker, writer, director, producer. I also work on TV shows and Hollywood films as part of the crew. And I come from a background of 911 dispatching and journalism. So that's kind of me in a ball of wax. And a networking event or gathering that I've gone to recently. Well, an unofficial, I guess the best way to describe it would be the unofficial networking. It wasn't an official event, but it is a networking experience.
Yeah.
And what I had was I worked on the crew of the Jersey Shore family vacation that came to Boston a couple weeks ago.
So cool.
It was a lot of fun. A great group of people, from all over the country. There were crew people there from LA, from New Orleans, from New York, Jersey. I mean, they're people from everywhere. So it became a networking thing.
Yeah.
In the sense that we're all meeting each other, or I was meeting them for the first time. So I got to know everybody, and some of them knew each other, some of them didn't. I came away from it with a bunch of contacts, not only for guests for my podcast, but also I ended up starting to write a short screenplay based on inspired by someone that I met on part of the crew, who was also an actor. So a lot of blossoms came out of that. So I'm going to call it a networking work gig.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's bringing a ton of different folks in one group, and you're meeting them and experiences and getting inspired. I think networking doesn't need to be a organized event, right?
100% agree with
networking. It could be a slew of things. So I think that's a great answer.
Yeah, thank you. And I 100% agree with you. That is it's networking. I think the word itself is kind of not a negative, but it's intimidating to some people.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But because we're always meeting people, we have the opportunity to meet people every day, right?
Yep.
Whether you're in the supermarket or at the gas station. I mean, I've had conversations with people at gas stations before about music or whatever, and some lady told me her entire life story one day at a gas station. So there's an opportunity that's networking, like human to human connection.
Yeah. I was at Trader Joe's the other day. I got a business card. Wasn't meaning to.
Yeah.
Trying to connect, but it happened. So I hear it's to your point, the word networking. It's something that it's used to describe, but you throw that. We talk about it a lot. You throw that in front of an event or a gathering, and then it starts to make things a little bit different. But to your point, it's just personal connection. It's just a conversation.
Yeah, it's that human connection. I think is first and foremost, or at least in my space, is I want to meet people and find out about them, curiosity and who they are, and then if there's a way to do business together, then great. If not, then you're just learning, just soaking up whatever the vibe is, whatever they're teaching you about their experience and their perspective on life.
Yeah,
and I love that.
And you said something, vibe. I really like that you used that word, because I think that that's so, like, sometimes it's called emotional intelligence, but I like the word vibe better. I feel like in networking, understanding the correct vibe is so important. Like, and going into an event. So even if you're at, you were doing a work job. So was it a technical event that you're going there to network for? No, but it was some sort of work. You got to meet all of these interesting people, and you had to kind of assimilate in some ways into the culture and the vibe of that event. And that's, I think, so important in networking is, maybe people just call it read the room.
I agree with you. I mean, clearly I'm also one of those types of people that kind of likes to not test the boundaries, but I love changing people's perspectives on the physical nature of how someone looks. And that kind of, for me, if I can go tangential here, but going back to when I was a journalist, I would literally wear Hawaiian shirts and shorts and flip flops when I went to court, or to interview the governor or federal court, or interviewing prosecutors and things like that. And these people would look at me initially like, "What? I'm going to answer questions from you." But then, as soon as they understood that I know exactly what I'm talking about and what I'm trying to get from them, and understand the law or whatever it is that I'm dealing with, they then opened up, but they also became kind of jealous of my work attire. Yeah. And I would tell them, like, guys, you don't need to wear a suit all the time. You know, this has a collar. In Hawaii, this is a business shirt, right?
There, yeah.
So why can't it be that way in New Hampshire? Just because it's New Hampshire or Mass or where? Like, come on. So I like to test that and kind of thwart preconceived notions and change their perspectives on people, and kind of also at the same time, like I think about I used to do a lot of DoD, Department of Defense networking events, and which was a total lark considering how small my company is, because their versions of small companies are like $300 million companies. They're like small, and I'm like, eh. But I would show up and go, hey, I have video potential, interviewing and training videos in HR and stuff like that I do. But I would talk to these people from Raytheon and all these massive defense companies who are talking about things that are so far over my head, technically speaking. But I would engage them and like kind of extract the human from their science.
Yeah.
So their egg-headedness they can explain it to someone like myself.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily understand. And they enjoyed it. They never hired me, but they enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important too with a lot of events. Like I go to a lot of life science events, and you ask these founders what they're doing, and sometimes they get so in the science of it, which they're doing something incredible. And I wish I understood more science than I do, but it's that, hey, can you take it a step back and explain it to me like I don't know anything?
Sure.
But I think that's helpful for a lot of founders as well, because ultimately when they're selling their product, they're not always are looking for fundraising. They're not going to be fundraising from people that really understand the nitty gritty behind it. So they need to be able to break it down onto a level that makes it digestible to the average human.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're absolutely. And look at the four of us. I mean, we come from 4 different walks of life.
Right.
And I don't know hardly any. I mean, I don't understand anything that the three of you guys do, even though I should, Taylor, understand what you do a little bit more closely when it comes to tax credits. But I leave that for other people in the film industry to do.
Understandable.
But getting the three of you to tell me what you do, and I want to learn, at least to be able to articulate on a level that is relatable. So you guys don't look at me like, oh, you're an idiot, or I don't look at you the same. Like if you're asking me about film stuff and production world and lighting or whatever, yeah, I could tell you about that, but you don't necessarily deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. And I think if you appreciate that more, then you go into a networking situation, a group setting, open-minded and willing to learn. That I think that's the best approach.
Yeah.
To meeting people in a group setting like that.
Oh, 1,000%. We talk about it all the time. To go into an event, and like we just talked about it the other week about the do's and don'ts, and Taylor said, don't hand out your business card like Pez candy. And it's so true, because you have to go in and that's not how you're going to build relationships. That's not how you're going to win business. You really have to try to have a genuine connection and conversation, and you have to find that human element, just like you were talking about. And now
your own human element too, right? You were saying, Rick, that you wear your Hawaiian shirt and flip flop. Like I think everything you do, whether it's verbal or you're wearing it or whatever, it's part of your brand. It's part of how
Right.
you want people to perceive you. And that's a beautiful thing, because I'm sure, you're saying your experiences were maybe assumptions, and then you start talking and then there's different assumptions, but it all plays into the person that you're trying to have them see and get
Sure.
acquainted with, which I think is also great. Like you're being your authentic self.
I absolutely agree. Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, Rick, did you do the Hawaiian shirt with the shorts as well to really maximize, or what was the
that's just me.
Yeah,
that's just how I am, and I don't put on airs to go like oh, I could put on a suit and go to Third Thursday and show up and be all astute business person, but that's not me. Like that would be an actor. But not that I dislike wearing a suit. I mean, only when necessary. If it's but I'm just a casual human being, I guess, is the way to
like it.
But or as some ask me, are you from California or are you from Hawaii? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, you belong there. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured. I
wish I was there right now.
Right.
And
exactly.
Rick, I just have to ask this question because I know it was the first question I asked you when I met you. And so your business is called Sweaty Turtle.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Okay. Back in 2011, 2010-ish, I was in the process of working on my second feature film that I had written. And no, I'm sorry, I was working on my third film. No, it was the second film. But anyway, we were sitting around and I was like, I wanted the LLC because one of the things that I felt might be more welcoming or receptive is if I go to, like, when I'm going out seeking money for films, just to have a business as opposed to, hi, I'm Rick Dumont. Will you give me $1 million for a movie or 500, whatever? And people would look at me like, yeah, right. But if I had an LLC, maybe it'd be more professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided the LLC, and I said, now I need a name. What's it going to be? And so I had to call it Sweaty Turtle Entertainment as an homage to my wife, who I had years earlier called her my sweet eternal one day. And she turned around and said, did you just call me a sweaty turtle? And I said, yes. So she became my Sweaty Turtle without the E. And when I LLC'd, it's kind of like my Desilu Studios thing for her. And over the years, it's just kind of like people forget my name, but they never forget the Sweaty Turtle. They're always like, you're the Sweaty Turtle guy. Yeah, that's me.
Oh, it's so memorable.
Nice.
And it's
I love it.
I never planned it to be that way, which is really, like, I never thought of it that it would be that recognizable or memorable. And that's the beautiful thing that came out of it. And my daughter, actually, just on as a little aside, the logo for the company, my daughter, who was 8 at the time, I asked her, and she's an amazing artist, but I asked her, hey, honey, can you draw me a Sweaty Turtle logo? And she ripped the thing out in about 10 minutes, came back and showed it to me, and I was like, yeah, that's perfect. So, and it's been that way ever since.
It's sentimental. I love that. Yeah.
Hopefully you compensated her for the work.
I let her live in the house.
Yeah, that's
free living.
She still lives here with her boyfriend, so I guess that's something, right?
She gets free rent for life.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a bad way to live.
No, I'm curious though, because you do so many different things, Rick. I mean, what was the timeline with everything? Did you have a passion for one industry and then you started with another one too? I mean, you're in so many different verticals, and if you could just throw in like how you stay connected and network with those, because they are a little bit different too, unless you combine them all. Just curious.
I guess, I mean, going back through we'll talk the last 30 years. I was a police 911 dispatcher up until 2000. From 93 to 2000, I did it full time. And then in 2000, I became a journalist and a dispatcher at the same time. And that carried through for the next 15 odd years. And then in like 2006, I started writing screenplays and acting and diving into that world. And then in 2011, when I LLC'd, I also started offering creative services to businesses. Whether it's training videos or commercials or whatever. So it all kind of flowed nicely together in a stream that has been uninterrupted ever since, if I can say that. But because it all kind of combines together, right?
Yeah.
The journalism, the inquisitiveness, the storytelling of journalism is a good foundation for screenwriting. It's also a great foundation for businesses to let's do a documentary or let's do a business video or a commercial. I can help shape that because of the journalism background. And then, of course, dispatching, just ADD world. I mean, you have to be a multitasker to do that job, and work under incredible amounts of pressure, as you might imagine. Sometimes that any sort of life pressure that I deal with, come across, and whether it's a production or otherwise, it's like, this is nothing. I've done things that in one setting for hours at a time that have been just insane as far as what I think the average person would look at. And I don't know how the heck I did that either.
Experiences, right?
Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with all of that, do you have a favorite among those, or that's a lot going on?
I love the film world. I think that's the one thing where I'm at now is I've told this to my wife and others in the past, but dispatching, I absolutely loved it for a long time, but then I kind of burned out of it.
Yeah.
Journalism, I absolutely loved that until I got bored. Because to me, it became very formulaic in terms of writing stories, whether it was a crime story or a concert or an art story or whatever. It was just, you couldn't be as creative, or I couldn't be as creative as I wanted to be with the newspapers I wrote for. So the film world, I've been getting more and more deeply involved with over the last 20 years. And every day it gets better and better. There's no boredom. I see no boredom. I see no burnout ahead. So I think that's and this is where I'm supposed to be.
Okay. I guess keeping on that theme, I was just gonna say, do you have a favorite movie? A favorite movie, Rick?
Favorite movie depends on the genre.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of movies out there.
Yeah, depends on the day.
Well,
depends on the vibe.
It's an interesting one, because I think Taylor and Amelia probably know, I basically watch almost no TV other than what I see at the different events that I do at a bar, whatever. And so a lot of times it's sports, which I don't really care about, quite frankly. But interesting, I did see. Sorry, you used to?
I used to until 2004, when our beloved Red Sox won that first one, and I was like, okay, I'm satisfied.
I'm done.
We're good.
Put on a high note.
No, it's funny.
Although I am a big fan of the Boston Fleet these days.
Yeah.
One of my side hustles, in between acting and everything else I do, is security work. I do concert security, and I've become the locker room security guy for the Boston Fleet. And I love those ladies. They're amazing, so talented, and we've become friends over the last 6-7 months now, whatever it's been. And I want to see them succeed. So I care about their season and their playoff run and everything else. But all the guys' sports, I don't care about anymore.
So, Rick,
yes.
You have all of these side jobs and all of these cool things, police dispatcher to journalism. Where did networking fit in? When did you start? Because when I hear this, I'm like, maybe he met someone while he was police or doing a police dispatching work, and that led to journalism. Obviously, you have to have a huge network to just be able to do all of these things, because it all comes through just knowing people. But where did it start?
Especially in the film industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay. Well, part of it started, I guess. I joined the Dover and Portsmouth Chambers of Commerce when I LLC'd. And became very, 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 very active, especially in Portsmouth. I was there. I became their ambassador. In Dover, I was very involved with all the events that the chamber did. I attended a lot of different chambers, whether it was Manchester or Boston. I mean, I was just New York. I mean, I was going everywhere to attend. I still do when I have the time, is get out there and network and just hit an event and meet people. And but all of it, again, like it goes back to the unofficial networking events, or working in dispatch. When a cop comes in or a firefighter comes in, you learn about who they are, and they may know somebody, or they may, you talk about what you like and you talk about what they like, and they go, hey, I know somebody who has vintage cars, and that could be used in movies. Great, put me in touch. There's someone on my list now for if a movie like the Bob Dylan movie was looking for like 1950s cars back in New York. I have a friend who has 1950s cars that we can kind of pitch to the movie industry when they need them, because of my dispatching work.
Yeah.
So it's a constant. It's just a constant. I as a journalist, I did an interview with a guy, an incredibly wonderful man, an actor, Howard Platt, who you may or may not know from the show Sanford and Son. He was the white cop on the show. He also was in the Bob Newhart show. And he and I interviewed him. He was doing a play once, and then he ended up being in one of my movies, and we became fast friends. I went to support him in different plays that he had done. So it's just a perpetual being open to meeting and finding those connections, or letting the connection happen. I think naturally, organically, in a lot of ways, even in an organized setting. I like to just let it flow and see what happens with no expectations. Here's a kitty. Speaking of no expectations.
I think with that mindset too, Rick, we talk about when meeting folks, or again, I'm using the term networking event, but whatever it might be, I think a lot of people, which is good to a degree, are going with a purpose, but sometimes that purpose is, I want to find someone who can bring X into my professional life. And it's great to be strategic and have a plan. But that being said, I am a big believer in not turning away conversations, because someone always knows someone.
Exactly.
You also have that human element, right? And so that was a great example of the cars, right? Like you had a relationship, you knew someone, and it was never, anything that was a direct impact, but years later, now you're able to use the car situation with your current work. So I think bringing it back to authentic relationships, going to talk, you don't have to talk for 3 hours, of course, right? Like obviously, like be authentic, have a good conversation, but still don't be deterred if someone says, hey, I'm from X industry. And you're like, well, that's not anything to do with me.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to be like the bad stigma stereotype of the LA Hollywood set, where it's can you do something for me? No. Well, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Most cases they can. That's not the reason about it, but most cases you'd be surprised.
Absolutely.
Exactly. 100%. Yes, it was funny. I was at a wine dinner yesterday, and I know there's probably about 25, 28 people there, and I knew everybody but 3 people. So of course I make it a point to introduce myself, have a good conversation with those 3 individuals, because you never know. Yep. And it just so happens that one of the guys is peripheral to the company where I am the CFO at. And he has very, very good connections at some pretty large construction companies. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll set you guys up with one of my friends. And it turns out the guy is like one of the executives at, I would say, probably the top firm in the area type of thing. And you just, again, I wasn't looking for that. It was just, I wanted to talk about wine, talk about you, talk about whatever. And that's exactly what it was. And now things are all in motion. They're going to come down. They're going to visit our site in a couple of days, or within the next couple of weeks, I should say. And awesome. Again, completely unexpected. And those are the best ones for me.
Mm-hmm. You never know who you're going to meet, and you never know who someone you meet is going to know, or how they're connected to something that you might be interested in, one, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in 10 years. I think it's fun talking to people when in business, and they're like, yeah, I've been networking for so long. I get referrals from people I met 10 years ago. I don't even remember where I met them. And all of a sudden I get a lead from them. And it's all just about being authentic, being yourself,
being in the
growing
moment.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a human first, business person
Totally.
second.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And I hate to say this, but it's time. It's our 5-minute mark. I know. So we have to start wrapping up here. I know. I feel like we'll have to have you on for a second episode because I feel
would
like
love to come back.
We can talk forever.
I do actually. Can I ask one question just to wrap it up before we kick off our end? I wanted to know, because you, on top of everything else you do, Rick, you also have a podcast that you've mentioned a few times. What is this podcast?
I call it the Dumonted Pod. And the reason, I mean, obviously it's Dumont and a variation off of that, but all of my films it's a Dumonted film, so the podcast has to be the Dumonted Pod. And basically, I just bring on people that I find fascinating and interesting and inspiring, and they don't have to be like from the film world, and they're not, because Amelia has been one of my guests, thankfully, and I'd love to have the both of you guys on and find out where you came from, the human experience in this existence, in this time and space. What's your perspective? And we just kind of talk. We'll talk about who you are, how we met, and kind of really just go from there. Any no subject is off the table except for politics. Like I don't deal with that.
That's a smart decision. I love that.
Sometimes we have done some really sensitive subject matters, whether it's domestic abuse or sexual abuse, which I've been very experienced with, or mental illnesses or drug homelessness, like a lot of different super sensitive subjects if the person wants to talk about it. But more often than not, it's just exploration of what do you see when you walk around this planet, and how do you exist? And we kind of just go from there. And sometimes, like with Amelia, we talked for, I don't know, what it was, about 2 hours.
I know. I feel like I was like, if I didn't have another meeting, we would have talked for another 2.
Right. And then, of course, in the middle of our conversation, I had to take a phone call
with the Jersey Shore.
With the Jersey Shore people.
That's how I knew.
That's so cool.
Because they were offering me another couple of days of work on the project after shooting, and I was like, can you hold this thought for the podcast? We're not live, so.
No.
But
that's pretty cool.
But that's my podcast.
Their family vacation is honestly, that's like some of my favorite background TV to put on.
My goodness.
It's so.
I wish I had known that then. I would have mentioned it when I drove Paulie and Snooki and company to the airport.
Oh my God, that was fun.
Or not Paulie, but it was Mike and Snooki and
Vinny, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? But Rick, how can people find you? Before we get into events that we're doing this week, how can people find you if they want to reach out? What's the best way?
I'm on LinkedIn. Is a really good way to do it. I'm also on Instagram at Rick G. Dumont. And then my email, rick@sweatyturtle, is a great way to hit me up. And I mean, you can visit my website at rickdumont.com and see all my acting stuff and all my production stuff and all my Sweaty Turtle stuff and the podcast and everything. So there's a myriad of ways. I don't do X, Twitter, or whatever it's called these days. I'm starting on Blue Sky, but
we're on Blue Sky too, actually. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I literally just started a profile last night, so I don't even.
I'll tell Jeff to follow you. I think he manages the account. I don't know.
Cool. But and the podcast is on Spotify. It's on all the different platforms that are out there, minus Apple at the moment. But
Cool. So people tune into Rick.
Thank you so much.
To close out the episode, are there any events that you're going to in the next? It doesn't have to be next week, but next few months that you really would like to highlight?
Well, I'm actually going to be heading out the door shortly to one tonight.
Tell us about it.
It's a film group gathering.
Fun.
And I could go long for this, but I'll try to keep it short. They are. I've been a part of this group of filmmakers and artists and game people. Like there's a couple people involved that have board games that they're developing. So it's kind of a creative incubator.
Interesting.
Down in Dorchester, and the cool thing about them is, outside of them, but there's the church where they're at, hold the things, has a cyc wall film studio in their basement. And that's where I'm going to be filming my next short film next month. So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's
very cool.
exciting. And then
full circle.
And then hopefully I'll be able to get to the third Thursday.
I hope to see you there. Yeah. Oh, I actually won't be there this month. Next month I'll be there.
Okay. And then on the 29th, I'll be in Brooklyn at a film event, another film event. I don't know so there's a few things happening.
Awesome.
Networking wise and otherwise.
Yeah. Stephen, Taylor?
Yeah.
Fun events?
I was going to say, definitely the event tonight sounds fun, Rick. Hopefully there's some good wine there if there are beverages.
Middle Eastern food, so
Ooh.
I'm all about it.
That's one pairing that I don't know that I've set that up yet. I've paired even with like Mexican food and Indian food.
That's a challenge, Stephen.
There we go.
I see
we'll work together on that.
I see a collaboration.
I like
it. Great minds thinking alike on that one.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'd love to have both of you on my podcast.
Yeah, please. You guys both should go on.
Yes.
Love to do it.
We'll talk off air.
Yeah. Stephen, where events you're going to? I think you started talking. Oh, I think you froze.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So tonight I actually have another wine and food pairing event at a French place in South. Can you hear me now?
Yes, kind of.
Like a Verizon commercial.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a Verizon commercial right now for you.
That's okay.
Okay, well,
there is one other event I can mention if you want, if I can jump in.
Yeah.
Since we've frozen. The New Hampshire Businesses for Social Responsibility has their spring event coming up next month. I think it's the 22nd. That I'll be attending to, which is an incredible organization.
Interesting.
That might be one
originally from New Hampshire, so I should probably check that out.
Yeah, I'll send you the info on it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Taylor, what are your events?
I have two exciting ones. I have the Crew Women in Commercial Real Estate Gala on Wednesday. So a lot of awards are being placed, and this is the really more fun social time of the year. So that's going to be a fun event. A lot of amazing women are getting some really cool awards, so it's definitely a really fun time. And then I have to work with a lot of accounting firms. I have a training / social hour with a really great partner of ours, which is always nice. So it's the whole team and then my team. So that'll be really fun. But that's pretty much it. And then I'm on the road traveling for the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that'll be fun.
What about you?
Going anywhere fun? Or is it
I
business
am
or both?
Business and personal. I'm going to Nashville, Montreal, and New York City.
You're gonna have a blast.
Love it.
Yep, I'm excited.
Have fun and all, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. What about you, Amelia?
Well, before Amelia goes, Taylor, I hope that you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt to the gala.
Oh, of course. I have a.
We'll have to look into that.
Hawaiian shirts.
I was out with an outfit, so now I'm inspired.
You wear like a Hawaiian retro-fitted long dress, right?
There you go.
You could probably make it.
I need more days like today, the sunshine and warm weather. So if that helps, absolutely.
So events I'm going to this week, I just got invited to one. I'm really excited. It is a robotics summit after party. So there's like a big robotics week-long event that's going on in Boston. So one of the people that I'm friends with, she invited me to her company. They do more business development, high-level marketing, but they're hosting a happy hour after party on Wednesday for all of the people attending the event. And then on Thursday, I am going to a Cinco de Mayo mixer that is being hosted by Bridge and Alliance Bank. So it's been on my calendar for a while. I'm really excited. I do have a dinner after that. That's I just got invited to too. So trying to sneak in 2 events at once. We're going to see how that goes. Everyone knows that I'm not the best at doing that, but I like to push my boundaries. And
you love a good challenge.
You know what? I figure show up early to one, leave a little early, show up on time to the next. They're about a 20 minute walk from each other. So I'm just going to park.
Perfect.
I'm going to park in the middle of the two, and that's the goal.
You can get it done.
I actually did that a couple months ago for a Third Thursday, and there was a fashion event.
Ooh, I think I saw you, and you were. I think we talked right before you were.
I like scooted out of the Third Thursday early to go down to walk up the street to get to the other one.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rick.
Thank you for having me.
I wish that we could do 2 hours. Unfortunately, we cannot. But please stay on after. We can chit chat for a little bit before we all jump. But see everyone next week. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to end the stream here.